Hi, comic book fans. Welcome to another suddenlycomics.com video. And today it's a special one. We've got another of my series of interviews with self-publishing comic creators. And today we are welcoming Richard Perry. Richard, tell us a little bit about yourself, your origin story, as it were.
Oh, the origin story. Oh God, I don't even know when I sort of started writing because it goes back to I think when I was a child, more than anything. Even like sort of going back to the early days of Lego, and it wasn't necessarily doing what those stories were, but creating my own stories. And throughout the sort of like years growing up, I was just developing different ideas and just having fun with stuff. And what was really interesting was that two of my friends and I over one summer, we were probably about 14, 15 or something.
Uh-huh.
And we just hung out every day and we just started messing about every day. And I don't even know how it came about, but we ended up just pretending that we were superheroes. And I don't even know, like we just used to ride around on bikes thinking that we were superheroes for whatever reason. And
Fantastic.
that's actually where the Robustatrons started. And I,
Is that
for
what you called yourself when you were 14?
what we called ourselves, yeah, we called ourselves the Robustatrons. Yeah, we were
Oh,
just like,
okay, great.
the superheroes of Reading, which was so I'm originally from Bath, but I grew up in Reading.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, and then throughout school, I was just sort of writing these stories just based on us being superheroes. And then 24 years later or 20 years, I can't even think about the numbers of it. It was only recently that we started actually making them into graphic novels, and it's doing really well. It's very early. I'm not going to lie, so it's sort of like a slow burner, but feedback we're getting from the stories and from the books is just like incredible. So that's where that started.
So are your friends who you were riding around on your bike with when you were 14 being Rabustatrons, are they involved in the production of the graphic novel or are they just watching?
No, they're just watching. Yeah, I'm still friends with them. But yeah, they're just sort of watching. And my sort of like close mate is also included in it. And I don't want to give away too much that you see about the story, so people are
No,
going to have
don't
to
do
see it.
that.
But a lot of, say, the names are sort of fragmented from different people that I went to school with. Um, and even to this day, it just makes us laugh. I was at a Christmas, I don't know, do with sort of like all my school friends or whatever, and they were like, "Are you releasing the Robustatrons? I thought you wrote that in like 2003." And I was like, "Yeah, well, you know."
So
Um,
are we getting because I haven't read this yet. I have ordered a copy, but it has not yet arrived.
send this. Okay,
So I
send
haven't is this sort of written by a 14-year-old or is this written by a 30 something?
No, oh God, it started back then, and then obviously just life took over, and went on to different things. But every sort of like every other year or something, I'd bring out the drawer. And originally, I started writing it in prose, so I always thought of it as a novel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So and then it was funny because I mean, my sort of background is film and TV, and when I met a gaffer who was just as I don't know crazy as I was. I just started randomly talking about this big project that I have had, and he was just so into it. His name is Gareth. And then we finished this job that we were both on, and he just really wanted to get involved. And I said, "Yeah, great," because I've kind of got these like semi-stories, but I haven't developed them too much or anything. So I think I was like mid-20s when me and Gareth used to spend 2 hours a week just brainstorming, and
Okay.
that's where a lot of the material came from. Um, and then for whatever reason, Gareth and I just went on to different paths, etc. And I still wanted to write it as prose, but it was always just such a big job. So, um, it just needed a lot of time. And then what happened was I made a graphic novel series that's not like a trilogy called Monument. And it was because of my love of graphic novels that I got into actually quite late, to be fair. Like I was sort of early 20s, I think it was, when I started reading Court of Owls and those type of new issues. And then it developed into like Loving Saga and then Why the Last Man and 100 Bullets and that was really interesting. And I was like, oh my God, like the scope of this was fantastic. And my sort of like history is always, when it comes to like film and TV, you've always got to be conscious of budget or time or people or actors or XYZ. Whereas like the graphic novel form, it's just your freedom is just
Yeah.
incredible. You can do whatever you want. I mean, there's all sorts of genres out there. And anyway, it was just long story short, sorry, was that I made one of my I turned one of my scripts into a graphic novel just because I felt it lent to that medium. And I had a lovely relationship with the illustrator. We got on like a house on fire, and we made that. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting because now I know how to
Sorry,
do
and
it.
that was called The Monument.
It's called Monument, just Monument. Yeah.
Monument.
Um, and that I'm going to start selling and whatnot and stuff as well. But it's yeah, that was just like a really nice experience and working with him. And then because I think the Robustatrons was just such a huge project, it was kind of like I just wanted all my ducks in a row before I ventured into that. So because Monument worked so well, and then like the graphic novel format was just such a bliss to write. And because I'm more of a visual thinker than a necessarily a prose writer, when I remember doing chapters of like the early chapters of the Robustatrons in prose, and you're like, you've got to describe all of this stuff, to the fine details. So then the reader kind of has an understanding of what they're, obviously you can leave stuff to the imagination, etc. But with graphic novels, it's like film, you just have it there and it's
Yeah.
just, and it can be visually intoxicating more than like, yeah, words on a page. And anyway, so because I love that format and I got more into graphic novels, I just felt that the Robustrons was a perfect match. And then it was only, I think it was a year or 2 years ago or something, where I started converting those stories into graphic novel form.
Yeah.
And obviously now, yeah, we've got 4 volumes out. We've started the fifth. We've got 24 planned in total. Gareth and I rekindled after like 10 years of being apart, and every week we spend 3 hours talking about it. It's
Oh,
fantastic. I love it.
so let me understand this. So I went to the website, had a look. So it looked as if there were 16 chapters in a graphic novel.
Yeah.
So there's definitely one graphic novel out. So you finished one. Have you actually finished 5 graphic novels?
So the way that we sort of split it up was that it's essentially one story, so that's one novel, and we do sell special editions of that. I've actually got a copy actually. I've only got one left actually because at MCM we went through all of them. So this is like the complete
Oh, well, that's great.
novel of 100 and no, it's 400 and something pages. I can't remember. But that's like obviously the first one.
Yeah.
But because obviously it was a new story and we're trying to build, I sort of like looked at the saga module and I thought, well, let's do this as individual volumes, which is the combined 4 chapters. Also allows people, with financial like struggles and stuff, because we all know that comics and graphic novels are a luxury item more than anything. So it allowed us to sort of release each novel in smaller chunks. So if people wanted to sort of like, follow the story that way, then they can. So yeah, so structurally wise, each sort of novel is split into 4 volumes. And then we've started essentially what is chapter 17 slash second graphic novel slash volume 5, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Just about.
What
I used to think Tolkien was confusing, but I think you may have trumped him.
yeah, it's a weird format, but I just think that especially with this first one, maybe with Ancient Prophecies, which is the series 2, we might just go straight into it as a novel, but it just allows, as I said, people to just follow this story continuously, because otherwise it might be another 2 years before, I don't know, we finish Ancient Prophecies.
Okay, and it's I've sort of read the synopsis and everything, and it looks like a sort of saga spread over quite a period of time. Is that correct?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay.
That's the other tricky part. Yes, yes, it is. Yeah,
Is it a space opera? I mean, are we on different planets or is it all on Earth?
it's all on Earth, but it's set billions of years
Yes.
future. And I think that what has been quite irritating actually is certain things I'm not even going to mention because people will start relating it to that. But there's certain like films that have come out that I've gone, are you kidding me? If I'd have released this 10 years ago when I wanted it to, it would have been the first. But anyway, I
That's
read a lot.
frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I see a lot of dystopian future stories and sci-fi stories, but I think that where we wanted to take this was kind of like another reset, like the dinosaurs, to us. And it just again allowed us freedom to create all these different beings and characters and this different world, but whilst it being on Earth. And what we've tried to do, we've tried to integrate some realistic science in there, but obviously not bog it down too much because we want it to be entertaining and we want it to be action adventure. And if you just start going off and on about X, Y, Z, it's just not going to work.
You don't want to worry too much about science when you've got superheroes.
No,
Um,
exactly.
so one of the one of the things I noticed, so you obviously you are the writer and the publisher effectively, so you bring it all together. So you find the artists and the colorists and the letterers. How did you go about doing that?
Very, very stressfully, I'm not gonna lie. It so Roy, who worked with me on Monument,
Yeah.
has a very unique style, great for that genre, because it's a very dark thriller, and it just really worked. And I was thinking about Roy, and I read Roy on, I think it was Hire an Illustrator when I started
Okay.
looking for artists.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the guy that runs the website, but lovely, lovely guy. Because even he helped with, what are you looking for? And I said, well, the difficult thing is I don't know. I've never done like a comic script before, so I need someone to turn a screenplay into a comic book script.
Mhm.
And funnily enough, I learned that process from Roy, which was fantastic. But in terms of like the Robustrons, when I went out to find, it was just really scouring 50 million Facebook groups and social media and DeviantArt and all sorts. And I think the problem that I sort of encountered was that, the structurally wise, I should have gone the route of penciler, insular, as in Inca, colorist, letterer.
Yeah.
But because I really wanted to sort of like keep the conveyor belt moving, we ended up using lots of different artists. And so therefore, like the artwork has changed depending on certain chapters. Um, but seeing that, and whilst they were all lovely to work with, don't get me wrong, there was obviously language barriers sometimes because they're international. You want a tree to be green and they've drawn it blue, and then they don't understand that you want it green, and that was obviously very problematic. But what I did find through that process was that Rom, who's now like the lead penciler in Inca, we had a
This is Romulano Silva.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Wonderful relationship, really nice guy, understands everything. I send references, brilliant. And we've sort of come to the agreement that because we want the conveyor belt to keep moving, he's going to be sort of like penciling everything. And then if he has the time, then he inks as well. But then we can also go to other inkers. So I think that structure was just a learning curve essentially in the first volumes. But and also because you've got I can't remember how many artists I've got. You've got all these different issues coming left, right, center, and inks coming from one person and colors coming from one person. And you're hurrying that person up because you need the pencils to go. And it was just like, oh my God.
Oh, right, because the other I interviewed a guy called Richard Hutchinson who's doing a similar type of thing. Well, he's doing something called Spirit Tracers, which he originally wrote as a novel, or well, actually, I think he wrote it as four novels, and then decided he was going to do it as a in comic format. But sort of he is literally just converting an issue at a time from the and sort of working on one issue at a time. It sounds like you've got four or five on the go at the same time.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I should I don't know why I complain because I do it to myself. It's my own it's
Yeah.
but yeah, when I think when it was the Robustrons and there was loads of people coming in left, right, centre, and then I was still doing Monument with Roy, and then I was looking at this other single one shot that I've got coming out next month of
Okay.
this completely other story called I Am What I Made Me. And then I was looking at artists for that, and I was like, what are you doing to yourself? Just finish one. But it was, I think it was just the love of it, just to, on these different stories, and I knew how to do it effectively as well. So once you know how to do something, it's like it's really exciting. You just want to do it more and more and more. Um,
So you have to do all everything, don't you? So you presumably have to go and find a printer, and you have to get the agree a minimum, what's the minimum number I can make and all that type of stuff.
oh yeah, that's the
And
problem.
then and
Yeah.
then how on earth you distribute it, I don't know. So friends and family, I should think. Have you got any distribution methodology?
Well, the so Monument was with a publisher called
Okay,
Marcoda, so they kind of
I dealt with that. Yeah,
yeah, they sort of like do, and that was, I mean, to be honest, that process is obviously really easy because you just send off the artwork
yeah,
and then you're like, thank you
yeah,
very much.
yeah.
They've been great, fantastic. With the restaurants because it was a little bit different. I just I partnered with someone else as well, and we just sort of like looked at it like, hey, this is something unknown to us. Why don't we just try to get it out there ourselves? Because we're also looking at other avenues for the project as well, which I can't say too much about at the moment. But like, we just wanted to say, also treat it as something that we could not. Sounds really bad. This not like we can control it, but kind of in a way, if that makes sense. So we can navigate that landscape that is completely new, like the conventions. I mean, my first convention I ever went to start selling was in September. And I had no idea how it was going to go. Luckily,
You just set up a table.
yeah, we went to a small UK CGF, I think it was in Warwickshire,
Okay.
and apparently it was. I mean, I had no idea. I had no concept of relatability. So, but anyway, all the other traders were like, "Oh, this is awful. There was no one here," and I was like, "Well, I've just sold 20 books," and I was like, I'm happy with that." But apparently, it's not good or something. And I was just like, I was over the moon. And they're all volume ones. Uh, what was really fantastic because I hadn't experienced this as well before was you're in direct conversation with your customer and you're telling them the story about this thing that you've been working on for like, nearly your whole life. And they're really into it. And then it excites you. And then they kind of like feed off that, even though they haven't looked at it. Sorry, read it obviously or understand it too much, but they flick through, see the artwork. Oh, the artwork's great. They really like the story. And I'm not even gonna I'm not sorry making this up, but so many people have bought volume one and then just wanted to buy the rest of the series because they loved it. I mean, and that for me
That's
is
brilliant.
just is better than I don't know, someone coming along and give me 500,000 quid or something. It's just it's rewarding the fact that, something you've made is resonating with people.
So, you said the day job is film and TV, yes? Yeah. Do you envisage a stage where that's not the day job and the day job is writing?
But yeah, well, we can all dream, can't we? Yeah, I mean that would be nice. I mean, it would be great to get to that sort of stage. Who knows? Maybe not. It's funny because Gareth, who is still a gaffer, and he does lighting and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about this funny enough the other day, and it's not. Yes, it's something that we want, but I think that the problem is when you start like say a lot if I was younger and I was doing this, say for example, you might go, oh well, you put too much pressure on yourself. to get out of that world into this, whereas we're just sort of like trying to just be along for the ride because we love it so much. So
Yeah,
that if that comes, great. If not, we just keep doing what we're
you've
doing.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people go down the pub. We just like talking about beasts and goblins and all sorts of stuff going on in underworld and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Fantastic. Right. So from the experience you've had so far doing this, what's the most fun bit? Is it actually the writing itself, or what's the most fun bit of the process?
Do you know what? I think it's talking what I call just called talking shit with Gareth.
Yeah.
Uh, I say like,
So that is the creative process, isn't it? That's where you're doing the creating.
exactly. I mean, I've written other stuff in the past, and it's a very solitary experience most of the time. Whereas with Gareth, it's like a completely different way of working where we'll just talk shit for hours. Oh, what if this guy does that? Oh no, but that can't work because of that guy or this. Da, da, da. Yeah, but how about that? I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. But how about we do this? Or like, he came up with an idea and I was like, nah, not for me. And he goes, yeah, fine. Or I come up with an idea and he goes, yeah, but that doesn't really work because of that. And you go, oh, yeah, cool. So you just talk crap.
Yeah,
And sooner or later, obviously, you have to put it in some form of like, actual structure that the story can work. And we do that periodically and we go through. But I think the most fun part is just talking shit. It's just great. I'm sorry if I swear. You might have to bleep that out. But
that's
like,
no, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. I've got far worse people I've had on the program. Um, and what is the bit you least enjoy? What's the hardest bit? If
oh,
you
the
said, "Oh, I can
accounting.
drop that bit,"
Yeah, the accounting.
yeah,
Oh,
okay,
it's just a nightmare. You go from one show and then you're like, then you have to work out the bank fees and then you put it into this and then you have to look at your margins and then you're like, oh, well, I kind of didn't, I should have sold it for more then, but I didn't really want to because I was just like engaging with people. And then you're like, it's just numbers, isn't it? It's just, yeah, that's the boring part. I think that's just, I mean, you have to do it, obviously, and everything can't be fantastic, but yeah, it's just when you're working out all of that and then you go, it's a half a day job and it's just boring.
agreed. I'm not going to argue with that one. So, uh, sort of classic question here that I've asked people. So, if I was to ask you to name your, not you can't name anybody you've worked with. Who's your favorite comic artist? So they don't get upset if you don't name them. Who's your favorite comic artist? You can go. It doesn't have to be alive. They can be dead. It's
Do you know, I've got so many.
you'll have three then.
I'd have to say the one that strikes the most is probably Fiona Staple in Saga, to be honest. I like
Okay. Yeah.
the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
That's not in any derogatory or anything like that. It's
Oh,
just, obviously
very
it's not
clean.
yeah, and and it suits the tone of it, and it's like I don't want to say tongue in cheek, but it's not getting bogged down in because obviously like horror and things like that, you need like the heavy contrasts, you need certainly the depth within those pages, or you know, just trying to think of someone else really. No, I just love that. And then what am I reading at the moment? I might I don't know the name, but there's this one like drama novel that I'm reading at the moment. Um, she actually won an Eisner Award, actually, I think. I can't remember the name of it to be honest. But anyway, that's fantastic as well. It's kind of like got this like smudged clay effect on
Okay,
it.
sounds interesting. I'm not sure I've seen it, but I'll tell you who when you were talking that sort of fit between an artist and a sort of style is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I don't know if you've read any of their stuff. It's sort of crime. It's
Yeah,
crime noir. Ed Brubaker writes it, and Sean Phillips and they've done loads of stuff together. It's just a partnership that is perfect. Brubaker writes great crime noir, and Phillips draws great crime noir, and they just sort of meld together. And I think that's really good. And I like it when a story, the art, almost the art begins to tell the story, and that I like that.
I completely agree. It's like, so the latest one, the one shot that I was talking about, I Am What I Made Me. I mean, I was thinking about that to be a novel for about 6 months, I think it was, before I actually took the plunge. But I spent weeks looking for the right artist because every like Roy, for example, fantastic with that dark noir that we've got. And he's really fantastic at it. And with the Robustatrons, I was looking at those artists and I was like, they're perfect for that. But whereas this was doing a drama book, like a sports drama. And I was kind of like just scouring the earth, and it was a female protagonist. And, I was like thinking like a female artist would just really understand this a lot better than even I would as, a male writer. So I really wanted to find someone that could resonate with the characters. And I found this Louisiana in Argentina. Amazing, absolutely amazing work. And luckily she said yes. And that artist, as you say, like when a pairing really works, like the artist really has to understand the characters, the story. And even like she came back to me a few things. She could have easily just drawn what I'd written. She came back to me a few things saying, have you thought about XYZ? And I've gone, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. So it's kind of like not overstepping the bounds, but at the same time, she had a voice, which was great. You don't want someone that's just going to go, okay, I'm getting paid, so I'm just going to shut up and just draw what he wants. So I think that that's really important, that relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a writer called Cy Spurrier, who I met at Thought Bubble a couple of years ago. You need to go to Thought Bubble, by the way.
Yes, I've been told that. Yes, I have been. Yeah, I got told that a few times. I was at MegaCon as well, and someone else told me that. I was like, everyone keeps telling me this. So it's like, yeah.
And he'd written a comic. I think it was 4 or 5 episodes. And there was no text. There was no the story was in the artwork, and he was the script writer. I said to him, "How do you go about writing a comic with no text?" He says, "You've got to work really very closely with the artist." So, the plot had all come from him, and he'd visualized in his mind what he wanted to occur. And yeah, it was really, really great, and I love that. And so for me, it really hits home when the art helps tell the story. It's a bit like you were describing. If you write a novel, you've got to describe everything. Whereas if you've got a really good artist, then they'll help the story move along.
100%. It's like when I talk to camera people is in film, it's like the camera needs to tell the story so that if you watch something without dialogue, if a Spielberg's classic for this, like you can sort of understand what's going on in the scene by the camera work and the production design and the lighting and everything and the costume, all of those kind of attributes. And I think exactly the same applies to comics. It's like you, yes, dialogue is a supplement to the pictures. The pictures are everything, and obviously story has to come and plot has to come, etc., etc. But especially in a graphic novel, like if you took away the dialogue and if you had people understand that story without the dialogue, I think that's a win-win. And then you can strip back on the dialogue and let people embrace the visuals. And I think that's, what this medium is. It's a visual medium. So we need to concentrate on that.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I was going to say what's next, but you've got about another. You've got a hell of a lot of Rabustatrons to do.
Yeah, I think that like yeah, I
But
think
you've already done some side projects. You said you've got a one shot coming out next
yeah.
month.
Yeah, so that one
What's that about?
it's about a female boxer.
Oh, okay.
So what was also interesting because I just love learning and doing different stuff, but I didn't even realize until about 3 years ago that graphic novels can be drama based. I mean, it doesn't have to be sci-fi, it doesn't have to be fantasy, it doesn't have to be, but you can actually just sort of have a really meaningful, touching story. Um, and so coincidentally, anyway, I read this article about a real life boxer called Shannon Courtney, who had a very troubled childhood. Uh, Not troubled childhood, that's not the right word, but very sort of like tough upbringing. and she turned to the sport and it just completely changed her life around. I thought that was really inspiring. So I just decided to be inspired by that and write my own story that's with sort of similar sort of parallels. And yeah, as I said, it's a sports drama. And then, funnily enough, I reached out to Shannon, and she's coming on board to be sort of like an ambassador for the project,
Fantastic.
which is great. Um, so yeah, looking forward to that being released because it's just Monument's like this dark sci-fi thriller noir. It's like a female Luther, but like she's this lead character, she's lived in London for 350 years, and it's all sort of like very action based and heavy and gritty. And then you got the Robustrons, which is like this action adventure, universal sort of kids can love it, adults can love it, this, that, and the other sort of big, huge saga. And then this is like sports drama, I Am What I Made Me, which is like just really quite touching and inspirational. And I just think that they're all just quite different, and that's what I love. I don't want to stay in the same genre because you end up just writing the same thing over and over again. So
Right. And that's interesting. I think that one will do well. There's a big crossover. I don't, if you sort of draw a sort of Venn diagram of comic fans and
yeah.
wrestling and boxing fans, there's a big crossover. I don't know if you know about it. It's a
Oh,
real strange thing. There's this loads of comic fans. I'm not, but loads of comic fans that I know love wrestling and boxing.
right.
Uh, and there was a wrestling comic that came out last year, which did really well. So I think your one about boxing is going to do well because it strangely comic people like wrestling and boxing. Do not ask me why.
Do you know what? It's so interesting because the amount of people, the different types of people that I meet at these conventions, I'm gobsmacked. You've got like so many people into this world of conventions and cosplay and stuff that on the outside world would, be completely different sort of stereotype and everything. And that's what I love. It's just fantastic because you have no idea who's going to come to your table.
Uh,
And yeah, it's so I hope it does. I mean, we did roll out MCM some test runs just to see if like the story of that was working because it was quite small. I could sort of get some audience feedback. We got some great ones, like it's very inspirational. It targets more of a female audience because they can relate to it as well. And I've had a lot of comments saying, "Oh, this is great because all I'm sick and tired of seeing is superhero stuff or whatever." And I'm like, well, don't go to that side of the table then. Just go to this side of the table.
oh, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, but that's what's kind of nice about these conventions and this world that, yeah, is a bit new to me. I'm not going to lie, but you just get all these different types of people just looking for all new material, fresh stuff. So it's great to see. I hope it does well anyway. I would say that, but
Right. So any more one shots planned or shots? Yes. Yeah, yeah. I think you've got the bug, haven't you?
yeah, I've got a few. I think that like just because it's yeah, I've got a few. I'll leave it at that. Because I don't want to say because I say to myself like I need to sort of concentrate on something that's going on, but then I'm like, if I've got a spare half an hour, I might do that one. So yeah, there's some more. There's gonna be some more.
Okay. So Richard, I think that'll do for a first conversation. I try and keep these videos to half an hour or so because people get bored after half an hour.
Of course, yeah. And I'll waffle as well when
Uh,
I'm in nervous situations, which is
So
that.
I am going to put a link to Richard's website, and you can go and buy novel one. Alternatively, if you want to get it cheap, wait till he comes up on Whatnot again, because he was selling them really cheap on Whatnot,
Three
three
pound.
quid.
£3.
I will read the first volume when I get it, and I will review it on this channel and say what I think. Um,
I hope you enjoy it.
so do I. It'd be a bit embarrassing if I have to give it a bad review, having
I
enjoyed.
know, right? Do you know, I've had a few people do that to me. They've gone, oh, like, I've got it. I'll give you a review and put it on this Facebook group. And I'm like thinking, well, do you
Yeah.
want to offer that after you've read it?
Yeah. Okay, so that's your lot, guys. Look out for the Robustatrons and Monument, and I Am What I Made Me.
Correct, indeed. Yeah,
There you go. So there's plenty to look out for there. And good luck, Richard, and hope all the projects work.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's lovely
All the
talking
best for
to
the
you.
future.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.